It's been a long time, probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since I last looked at this. Of course, I'm talking about that Panasonic absolute garbage DS850 professional SVHS machine that somebody gave to me after they bought it off eBay and it had been dropped and the boards were broken and stuff. And we've already done 2 videos on it. Fixed the mechanical part, but we had no video, and today we're going to try and solve that problem. Let's check it out. Been a few years since I looked at this AGDS850 that had been all bashed in. If you guys remember it, I think there was a couple of videos on it a few years ago, and I've been sitting on this thing ever since, and I figured today I'd put it back up on the bench and just see if we can find anything that we can do with it. So it's playing a tape now, but of course there's no video, there's just that on the screen. And if I put it into pause, I get that. If I put it into search, so there's nothing. Nothing at all. It's in pretty sad shape. So the top cover comes off really easy. Just 2 screws hold the top cover on. And as you'll see once we get into the top, if you don't remember from the prior video 4 years ago, this is a modular design with nice, easy to access circuit boards. The fault sure looks like a problem in the time-based corrector just by the way it's behaving, but it could be pretty much anything that's causing the fault. I guess we'll start by looking at some of the test points and see whether there's a video signal that can be detected on any of these test points. I'm seeing the stair step come up on the scope momentarily as I start it up. Like that. So it's, I'll show you what I get on the scope when I start it and stop it. See, I get the momentary flash of what would normally be the luminance RF, or the luminance, the decoded luminance from RF, but it drops out very quickly. Of course, I get nothing when I put it in pause. Just noise. There's pause. Just noise. So this unit is loaded with surface-mounted electrolytics, and that's likely where the problem is. It could be a power supply problem as well, though. It could be ESR in the power supply that's causing too much ripple. So I guess the first thing to do will be to kind of go through the power supply and just look to see if there's any high ESR caps. So that's look inside the capacitors, or look inside the power supply at the caps, and as you can see there's none that are experiencing any visible failure modes. I don't see any that the tops are bulging or anything leaking, so there's a good chance that the power supply is okay. I mean, it still could be the culprit, but I think the chances of the power supply being the fault on this one are probably pretty low. I think our problem is going to be more over on that video board with all those surface mounted caps. That's where I think the problem is on this unit. That's where I thought the problem was the last time I looked at this unit, and I didn't bother to work on it anymore just because I had other things to work on, and it's not a high priority. It's still not a high priority. It's just more for can I make this thing work type of thing, right? So let's go and look at the video board. We'll pull that video board out and measure some of those caps and see if there's some of them that are bad. I think that's probably a more likely culprit is the video board. The nice thing about like this is that the video board can be pulled out to be worked on independently of the rest of the unit. So I can turn it around here, just undo a couple screws. Don't even have to take them out, just have to loosen them. And this cover will lift off. And now I can get at the video board. So we have a time-based corrector back here, and we have 2 video boards here. We'll start by unplugging this board. You see what I mean? This board is just loaded with potential points of failure, if you catch my drift. Every one of these bloody caps could be at fault. And the second video board over here also has a bunch of surface mounted caps. In most studio applications, the engineer would just have a spare board and he'd just pop the board out, pop a new one in, and then take the original one away and repair it. So this is where we stand. I think this is the chroma, video chroma board. Now, this is not one I'm going to change every cap on. I'm sure if I did change every cap, it would probably fix the board, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to go through, I'm going to measure the ESR, and if there's a couple that are bad, I'll change it. So I'm just going to look at the ESR in circuit and see that that one's bad. And that one's bad. And that one's bad. And that one's bad. When I say bad, I mean, I'm kidding you not, okay? I'm not kidding you. Check this out. Every single one of these caps probably has to be replaced. I don't want to do that, but just for the hell of it, let's just take a look. Okay. 36 ohms, 78 ohms, 59 ohms, 86 ohms. Where do I start? 25 ohms. $55. You know, every one of these, every single one of them is bad. I was thinking maybe there'd be a handful, but I've yet to find one that's acceptable in any respect. Every single one of these caps is bad. This is what I was afraid of. It was going to be all these caps, every single one of them. And now it's looking like that's the case. What? I've got one that's only measuring 19. Unbelievable. It's still bad, but unbelievable. That one's completely open. That one's completely open. $60 ohms. 83 ohms. Completely open. Completely open. Heck, they're all bad. Every single one of these caps. Did I say caps? I should have said craps. That one's only 20 ohms. Still bad. It should be like, 0.1 ohms or 0.02. I mean, these are, that one there's completely open too, it looks like. 78 ohms. It's bad. Yeah. The only way to fix this board is going to be to change all of them. And if they're all bad on this board, guess what? They're all bad on the rest of the boards too. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 boards Just full of these bloody things. I wonder if there's some on the other side. I don't think so. I think they're all on the top side on this board. But where do you start? This is why these old industrial machines go so cheap. Like, I didn't pay anything for this. It was given to me, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Guy bought it, and it was dropped and buggered up, and I fixed the board that was bad, and I fixed the chassis that was damaged. Got it so that it would thread the tape up and load a tape. But then we found that it had video problems, so at that point the guy abandoned it and just said, you can keep it. He didn't offer to even give me a dime for the work that I put into it. So I mean, I put several hours into this thing and lost my shirt. And I thought someday I might fix this thing, just for something to do. I'm rethinking that now, after testing all these caps with the ESR meter and finding that every single one that I test is bad. Kind of says that every single one of these caps has to be replaced. So I could easily put a couple $100 in parts in this thing. Easily. I think what I might do is, just as a place to start, I'll ignore the ones that are reading like 40 or 50 ohms, because they're going to pass some signal. But the ones that are measuring completely open, we'll change those out. And just see what it does to the picture. See whether it will change and get it to play back something at all. Maybe eventually at some point I will replace all the caps. I'm going to have to buy a whole bunch of caps to do this. I mean, there's 70 caps on this board alone. Now, they're not all open, but several of them are. So if we start out just changing the ones that are completely open, and then try it. It's easy enough to do. I can change a couple of them one at a time and just pop the board back in the machine and see whether we've made any change. That way, at least it gives us a place to start, to see whether there's any chance of this thing working. It's more of a project now, and I could be working on this thing for months. There could be a whole series of videos coming out on this, but we'll start by just changing some of the ones that are completely open. Because no question, if they're completely open, they're not going to pass any signal at all. But they're all bad. Or probably 9 out of 10 are bad. I've seen a few that the ESR is actually quite low on. Like when I say quite low, I'm talking like 8 ohms, 7, 8 ohms, which is really low compared to what the rest of them are. But we'll start just by changing out a couple of them that are completely open, and just see whether we make any change at all in how this thing performs and what it does, whether we can get a picture of it. So the first one I'll do is this one right on the corner here. This one is measuring completely open. And how about this one next to it here? How's this one looking? This one is also, no, that's 12 ohms. I'll leave that one. 12 ohms, 47 at 16, and it should be around 1.6, and it's 12 ohms. So it's bad, but it's not as bad as this other one here that's completely open. What about this 47 at 6, 76? That's also bad, but not open completely. So we'll start out with this one on the end here, and see what happens. changed 5 that are completely open. Let's see whether we get any different results when I play the tape. Still nothing. Incidentally, I'm using the cut and pin pull method. Cut the top off. Now we can pop them off. This is to protect the circuit board. And I mean, I've shown other ways of doing it, and some of the guys, like Carlson, for example, will show you the twist off. You just grab them and twist them. That works too, except for sometimes you can damage the board. This is a pretty safe way of doing it. It takes a little bit longer to remove them this way, but the chances of damaging the board are next to nothing. This is actually the way I learned to do it when I worked for Sony. We cut them off, cut the top off, and then just lift the pins. At least on this board there's plenty of room to put conventional caps and tack them down. One nice thing about a machine that's of this size is that there's lots of room inside it to work. Although it still will get pretty cramped. With changing all these caps out, it will still be pretty cramped. But not as bad as dealing with the SMD caps, that's for sure. Okay, so we've made a little bit of progress because now I'm kind of getting color bars when I at least go from stop to play. Momentarily we're getting something, which is more than we were getting before. I haven't changed all the caps at this point that are measuring completely open. I've changed about half of them. One thing this is proving though is it's proving that the problem is, there we go. Okay, so I've done this many. I've done this many of the caps. There's still the ones on this side. So we're going to test some more and change some more of these ones that are completely open. I mean, every cap on this board needs to be changed. There's no question. Every single cap has to be changed. But I don't have enough caps in bulk to change them all right now. And I'm more curious as to, can we get this thing to work? And this is going to be kind of become a work in progress. At some point, this will be completely restored. And I'll have changed every single cap on it at some point, I'm sure. But let's just continue and test. See, that one's not open, so we can forget to change that one. That one also is not open. This one here is completely open. I'm kind of working my way from one side of the board to the other. So I started down here, so I'm working my way this way. This one here is open, and they're all the same. They're all the same bloody values. They're 3.3 or a 4.7 or a 10 or a 47. That one's completely open, as is this one. 4.7. There we go. There's a couple 4.7s and a 47 is here. 3 more to do. All right, now I've done all the caps that were completely open. I haven't changed any of the ones that are measuring ESR, whether they're measuring 1 ohm or 10 ohms or 15 or 20 ohms. I haven't changed the ones that are good, that are still showing that they're passing a signal. The ones that were completely open, that were not passing a signal whatsoever, in other words greater than 100 ohms, have all been changed out. Let's see what difference we've got now. And I know there will be a difference. So let's put the board back in the machine. Now remember, this is not the only board that needs caps replaced on it. This is the start. We'll have to work on the other boards as well. Okay, power this one on. And I have about what I had before, which is a really bad picture. Just color bars that are way out of sync. So we've got more than we had before to start with. I still don't have a usable picture. This is what I have on the screen. If I pause, it goes to all noise. But that's more than I had before. So now we got to start on some of the other boards, because this thing's going to need tons of caps. We'll look at this other board. See what we've got for caps on this one. Well, this board's got through-hole caps, so I don't think those ones are going to be problematic, but there are some surface-mounted ones on the bottom board, so we'll take a peek at that one and see what shape they're in. Also, both time-based corrector boards are loaded with surface-mounted caps, so the TBC boards could certainly create an issue as well. I'm getting low on the common values. I want to take a look and just see what shape these ones are in. So this fifth, oh yeah, I've got a another heat sink. This has got a bunch of chips on it, but where are all the caps? Now there's some caps underneath there too, so I got to remove. Oh, this is a lot of work. I got to remove a shield on the other side, and then I got to remove this shield, which is heat sinking a bunch of chips. So this cover comes off. This is the digital board for video. Looks like just a few modifications have been done to this, doesn't it? I measured all the caps on here. There's a few of them that are open. We're going to change the few that are open on this board, and then I'll have to work on the TVC boards. But I've made some improvements. I'd like to get more than I'm getting now. I'm still getting a frozen picture, which could be this digital board that's acting up. So we'll change out the ones that are open, and the ones that aren't open are actually measuring pretty good. Like most of them on here are testing good. There's just a few of them that are really testing bad, so we'll swap those ones out. I've changed all the caps that measure open. Just gonna put the shielding or the heatsink back on. We'll mount the boards back together, and then I will try it again and see if we've made any more changes. Hopefully we've made some more improvements. This goes on. Put enough shielding on this board. This one being a digital board. They're trying to mitigate any spurious emission that could radiate from this board and cause interference to other devices. That's why I pulled all the shielding. One side is the heat sink. This side here is a heat sink. It's got copper. It's got copper heat drains that are pressed up against the ICs, making sure nothing's touching anything else in there that I've put in. Looks to be good. Yeah, this whole surface mounted capacitor crap, that's the biggest problem with all these electronics of this era, is the failure rate on them is very high. And again, that's why you can get these machines so cheap and people will sell them, although people still pay too much for them. Like the guy that bought this paid several $100s for it. It was bought as a powers up. But of course, by the time it got here, it was all smashed, so it didn't even power up until I fixed the circuit board and fixed the chassis. Well, here's what I'm getting now. More than I was getting before, but still pretty sad shape. So where we stand now is I've changed the open caps on TVC board number 1. There wasn't many. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of them are all measuring fairly low, but these ones were open. Okay, I've now gone and I've changed the open caps on TVC board number 2. So all of the open caps that were completely open, but not the ones that had ESR that was creeping up beyond where I would normally say they're good or bad, they have not been changed. Just the ones that were completely open have been changed. We'll see how this looks. And say this is a work in progress, so I don't expect to get this thing working perfect today, but I'd like to see how far I can get. And I'm gonna get more parts because I'm pretty much out of stock on all the common values that go bad. That's 4.7 and 10 and 1 microfarad. Don't have any left. So I'll put the card back in. The nice thing about working on machines like this is that the cards just unplug. Of course, the servicers had extensions that they could plug the card into that would raise the card above the chassis so that they could test it while it was in circuit. I can only test the test points that are available. Well, I would say that that is a substantial improvement from what I had before. We're getting there. I got to get more caps. I'm going to leave the video now. We had nothing before. We actually have sort of a picture. It's still not what it's supposed to be by a long shot, but we're getting there. So I'm going to close this one off now. I'll get some more bulk caps and we'll start going through and changing some of the other ones that are a little bit high in ESR and see what we can get. But what a difference compared to what I had when I started. To say this, by the time this is all done, it's probably going to need 150 caps done in it. I mean, really, there's a lot of caps on this machine, and I've only scratched the surface, but we've got sort of a picture. There's video off of the detector luminance. Looking at the different signals coming off the video board, looking a lot better than they were when we got into this, which there was nothing there initially. That should be the video head level. That's the VMod level. And what's this one? Okay, so we got some more caps on the video board. It's this board here. This is the one I'm going to concentrate on. Is this one more than anything? This is the one that's got all the caps on it, and we'll get some more caps and pick this video up at a future date. Don't know when it's going to be, but I'm not going to put this unit back in my storage unit now. I'm going to hang on to this unit now, and we will get back onto this one. Hopefully it's not going to be 3 years or however long it's been since I worked on this last, but we'll get back on this one and make some more improvements to it, because I'm sure I can get this thing working. It's going to be on this board here. As you can see, I've changed quite a few, but they're all bad. Every single one of these caps is bad. I just changed the ones that were completely open. So it's going to be, some of these other ones are not passing enough of a signal. Anyway, thanks for watching. This video has gone on too long as it is. We'll pick this up when I get some more parts and make another part. So this is part 3. We know there's going to be at least 4 parts, maybe even more. Depends on what progress I make, but we've already made pretty good progress today. So maybe in the next one we'll finish it. You'll have to stay tuned. Thanks for watching.